They said, people like her don't make it. Not because she wasn't smart, not because she didn't work hard, but because she came from a zip. Code people only talk about during election season, but this is what happens when you believe. Anyway, this is the story of Brooklyn Hayes, the girl who turned every no into a louder, prouder yes. Brooklyn was raised in a neighborhood where dreams were treated like fairy tales. She lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in the heart of South Chicago with her mom, her younger brother Liam, and her grandmother. Mom worked nights at a local diner. Her grandma stitched clothes to help pay for gas and groceries. There were no music lessons, no college, prep tutors, no shiny laptops or weekend getaways, but Brooklyn had a notebook, a worn-out, coffee-stained spiral notebook where she wrote everything: songs journal, entries, dreams, and on the inside cover, she had scribbled just 5 words. One day, they'll know me. At school, she didn't talk much. She was the kind of kid teachers described as quiet but kind, the kind of girl who'd stay after class to help, but eat lunch alone. She had no trendy clothes, no TikTok followers, no attention, until one day, that all changed. It was the final semester of junior year. The school announced a speech competition. Winner gets a $5,000 scholarship. Everyone expected the usual names. The student council president, the debate team captain, the honor roll kids? No. One expected Brooklyn to enter, but she did. She walked up to the sign-up sheet with shaky hands and wrote her name at the bottom. People noticed and they laughed. Wait, Brooklyn, is she even going to speak? Bet she's just doing it for attention? But Brooklyn ignored it all. Every night for the next 2 weeks, she wrote. While her brother did homework on the kitchen floor, she stood by the sink and practiced her speech. To the sound of a leaking faucet, when her mom came home at midnight, Brooklyn was still rehearsing, voice cracking, but heart steady. Her speech wasn't flashy. It wasn't filled with fancy words or big statistics. It was about growing up invisible, about being told you're too quiet to lead, to pour, to matter, to different. To belong, it was about choosing hope anyway. The day of the competition arrived. Brooklyn walked onto the stage in her only pair of dress shoes, hand-me-downs from a cousin. She took a deep breath and looked at the packed auditorium. The mic was taller than she was. She pulled it down slowly, hands trembling, voice low. But when she spoke, you could hear a pin drop. Her words didn't shout. They carried asterisk. They carried the weight of every ignored kid, every girl who was told she wasn't enough, every child who dared to dream. Beyond the skyline they grew up under. By the end of her speech, there were tears in the room. Even the principal, usually stone-faced, was wiping his eyes when they announced the winner. It wasn't the honor roll kid or the debate captain. It was Brooklyn Hayes. But this story isn't about a scholarship. That day marked something far more important. That day, Brooklyn stopped whispering her dreams. She started declaring them, and the world started listening. That one speech led to another, then a podcast, interview, then a scholarship offer from NYU. She didn't stop. She used her voice to speak at schools, shelters, and youth centers across the country. By 23, she'd given a TEDx talk titled, "Invisible Doesn't Mean Powerless." By 26, she started a nonprofit to help young girls from low-income neighborhoods find their voice through writing, speaking, and art. And remember that notebook? The one with the 5 words, "One day they'll know me"? It now sits in a glass case at her old high school, signed on the back, "They do now." You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to have the perfect background to become the future. You don't have to wait for permission to matter. Brooklyn didn't wait. She wrote. She spoke. She stood up quietly, but boldly, and that made all the difference. So if you're out there thinking you don't belong, if you feel like your story doesn't matter, remember Brooklyn. And remember this: your voice might be the very thing that changes the world, even if it starts as a whisper.